Hey everybody, LandVest here, back again with yet another YouTube video. This video I'm going to be recapping a trade I took on NASDAQ longs by utilizing both the Fractal and the Candle to Unicorn model on Friday, June 27th at the New York 930 Open. And before I get into this trade, I think it's important that we look as to what the past trend looked like and what gave me a higher confidence and a higher probability trade into this long signature at this New York Open. And so what did we see happen with NASDAQ here during this London session? Well, if we just look at the general candle movement on these 30-minute time frame, what do we notice about this 30-minute? Well, this 30-minute created a pretty aggressive accumulation phase during London where we weren't really getting any aggressive movement. As you can see here, if we just look at this general period, I have it marked as ZFVG, which it's not. This was a high period of accumulation. And so what did we see NASDAQ finally do at around the 7:30 to 8 o'clock window? Well, we manipulated the high of this London range by sweeping it out and then creating a short signature. And so here we created the accumulation, manipulation, and bearish distribution lower. And then what did we see happen around this 9 to 9:30? Well, around this 9 to 9:30 window is when I was starting to look for a bullish confirmation or a bullish reversal signature because NQ had sort of dried out a lot of these short sellers in this current market. As we can see here, market pulled from 22,787 all the way down to around 22,702. And as we were approaching these lows on a smaller time frame, I noticed that sellers were starting to get weaker prior to this 9:30 New York entry. And so once 9:30 opened on this 30-minute candle, what did we see happen just from a 30-minute time frame? Well, we swept out the low of the 9 to 9:30 candlestick, but also swept out the low of the 8 a.m. candle. And so both the hourly and the 30-minute time frames had been swept from this 9:30 to 10 o'clock open. And so now let's go on a shorter time frame to see where my entry signature lied. So here we see before this New York AM session what exactly happened. Well, we formed the low of this 9 to 9:30 candle here, which was right at around 22,702. And then at this 9:30 New York Open, we swept the low of this candlestick, barely closed below it, and then had a bullish signature back above this sweep of this 9 o'clock low. And so now what I was looking for here was to see whether or not we would get a confirmation into a 3-minute change in state of delivery. And so here we are on the 3-minute time frame, because as you noticed, I did my analysis on the 30-minute, which means that if I'm using proper time frame alignment, I want to use the 3-minute and the 30-minute time frame here for this trade entry. And so here, because we swept out this low, forming a new low, and I'll just draw this here with a line so you can see that was a new low that was formed at that new 30-minute candle, being this 9:30 wick low. We swept this, and so this 2 candle body down closure now actually becomes our change in state of delivery, which is always marked at the candle body high and not the candle wick, the candle body. So here we see now what I was looking for a base fractal model was to see whether or not we would get a candle body closure above this change in state of delivery. And if I were to take a traditional fractal model, I would enter on the correlating time frame, so the 3-minute with this 3-minute change in state of delivery, and put my stop at the candle wick low for a higher probability trade, targeting a 2R in this position. But if we just look at this, what's the issue with this trade on NASDAQ? Well, a 51-point stop for a lot of people is a very aggressive stop, right? It's a very wide stop and a lot of potential money that you are risking on the table. And so for a lot of you newer traders, you might not be as comfortable actually risking 50 to 55 points on a trade. But that's where the candle to unicorn actually comes in for a potential better trade setup. And so here, we are going to look and see, well, what is the candle to unicorn? The candle to unicorn model is the base of the fractal with these higher time frame sweeps paired with a change in state of delivery, but then it utilizes a handy thing called a breaker block. And so here, when we look at this trend here, where was the breaker block from this movement? Well, it was this 3-minute candlestick right here that formed a bullish breaker block. So I'm gonna mark this out on the chart, tag that as green, and so this now became our bullish breaker block in this trade. And so what I was looking for now on NASDAQ was to see a closure both above this change in state of delivery and this breaker block in order to confirm me into an entry signature. And as we see here, we got a closure above this change in state of delivery as well as this breaker block, and we did close decently above it. So I was anticipating a little bit of a retracement into this breaker block. So if I remember correctly, I took my entry just a couple points below that high, around that 732. And so instead of having my stop with the original fractal at that 47 point stop at the change in state of delivery low, I only put my stop about 1 to 2 points below this breaker block here, which you'll see I mark out right here, about 2 points below this breaker. And then I drag my TP up to a 2R in this position. So why did I like the fractal and the candle to unicorn in this example? Well, we had a very high probability sweep as liquidity and price action started to step up as equities opened at 9:30. We had a very good sweep of the original 9 to 9:30 low with the 9:30 to 10 o'clock candle. We closed back above that sweep, signaling that market did not want to go lower as sell side was weakening as we got closer to this New York open. And so now in order to really confirm this reversal signature, all I wanted to see was a confirmation candle body close above this breaker and above this change in state of delivery. Then with my entry being at around 732, I put my stop 1 to 2 points below the base of a breaker block in a bullish example and above 1 or 2 points above the top in a bearish example. But in this example, 1 to 2 points below. And then I target a 2R on this position. And as we see here on NASDAQ, and maybe we'll even see if we can do a little replay tool to play this trade out, entered right around that 732 with my stop there. And so we'll just say my entry was taken right around here. And so my TP goes up at that 2R, about 870, and then I put my stop about 2 points below that breaker at around 440. So this is a proper risk management trade as we have now defined our risk and defined our TP. And if you see here, where does that TP lie as well? Well, it first of all lies within that -2 to -4.5 standard deviation with the fractal, but it also lies towards these areas where liquidity might be pooling at these highs here. So we'll now play this out candle by candle to see what exactly happens. And here with that entry, we see we get that bullish confirmation and we finally start to get more of an aggressive move as we retrace higher and take us out at that 2R. And so here you'll see we get taken out at the 2R for about 870. I was in this trade with 3 contracts, actually took out 2 contracts at around 1.95R and then took my final out at an exact 2R. This was a rougher week of trading for myself, and so seeing an A+ C2U form at Friday at 9:30 was very nice for me to end off a nice week. Finally ending off my week green after a 3 no trades this week and then 1 small 19-point loss. And so this trade yielded a beautiful 3 contract 43.5 profit. Another thing to note as well about this trade, if we look at ES actually did yield a much better entry into this C2U and played out 2R a lot more. So ES this morning was indeed the leading asset, whereas NASDAQ was the lagging. But as ES got above this breaker on this 3-minute time frame as well and formed that long signature, NASDAQ finally started to follow alongside ES and create this bullish movement higher and higher until our 2R was taken out. And if we just keep playing this out here, we see NASDAQ only continued higher, where we ended up reaching a peak of 22,825. So this was just a nice little trade recap for all of you as to how I took this 3-minute, 30-minute candle to unicorn model by utilizing the break of the fractal and then adding a breaker, which is what the C2U is made of by ours truly, the Day Trading Realtor, who is the creator of the candle to unicorn model. But if you guys did enjoy this video, please feel free to subscribe and like for more trade recaps like this one. And other than that, I will catch you all in the very next video and some future live streams. Thank you all so much for the support. I'll catch you all in the very next video. Bye now.